Denise, Takaize, Skyze, Sai Sleydo Sydney. My new English name is Molly Wickham, and I hold the name Sleydo in the Cassia House of the Gidimden clan.
Hari Denise, Zakaize, Skyze, Sai Karla Tait Sydney. Giltsehi Habitasise, it's all Kas Wakediset. Sidenize Unist'ot'en Nedibis, Sitso, Weli, Sitsits, Tsayu, Wickham Shkol, Snet, Karla Tait, Sababe, Rennie Tate, Sayel Babe, Melvin Joseph, Luxiliu Habitakalzat. So, hello, good to meet you all. My name is Dr. Karla Tait. I am from the Giltsehi clan. I belong to the Dark House and just shared my maternal lineage as well as my father clan, as is our custom. We like to take our relatives wherever we go so that we can be good representatives and I guess live up to their expectations of us. So thank you for having me here.
Tabi Masai. Now we're getting more and more used to hearing about reoccupying, occupation of traditional territories. It's nothing new to us as Indigenous people. This is where we came from. We belong to the land, and this is where we return. And without negativity, in my personal opinion, I can see a disconnect. Oftentimes, this disconnect is being forced on our people. And sadly, this country, Canada, has contributed largely to that. What I also see and what I hear about in stories and in relationships is the tremendous amount of healing that is connected to returning to the land. And I have asked if you would be able to share some of that inspiration with our listeners, with our leadership, with our guests.
So I thought I would start today just by talking about a little bit about how we got to the place that we are right now at Gidimden Checkpoint. As we've heard from a lot of people, and I just want to thank everybody for their stories today and throughout this time. And we've heard a lot of, the trauma and a lot of the hardships that our people have suffered. My family experienced a lot of those same things through residential schools, through the 60s scoop. My mom was taken away and put into a white foster home as a child. And so we grew up largely disconnected to our people, disconnected to our ancestors, disconnected from our territories. And we all know this story. We all know how the fallout of what that looks like. And so I just want to share a little bit about how we got to a place of power, a place of connection. And for me, it started in university when I started coming home. And, our family is very widespread. Our ancestors come from Witsuwit'en, married into Witsuwit'en several generations ago. And so for us, reclaiming and relearning what that meant coming home was a big part of what I was learning in university about colonization and decolonization. And so when I first started coming home again, I started connecting with people who were inspirational to me. And one of those people was Freda Huson. And Unist'ot'en is my father clan from the Witsuwit'en. And so I connected with her and really started spending more time out at Unist'ot'en, out on the Inta, in the pipeline fight, in the struggle to reoccupy territory, in the struggle to protect the territory. And I really started to reconnect with those ancestors and to start feeling those little bits of freedom and what freedom might feel like. And for anybody who's visited the territories, I feel like people come and then, they come for a week sometimes and then they never leave. Some people come for, come to help out, and they feel that power and that inspiration, and they feel the ancestors on the territory, and they feel that connection to Witsuwit'en, and then they dedicate their whole lives to the resurgence of, protecting the territory, the resurgence of Indigenous law, of upholding those things. And that's kind of where my story emerged. And so it's been about 10 years now that I've been living on Cassia territory, Stewarding, and my family and I moved out there, and originally we wanted to build a cabin in the path of the pipeline. The clan had asked us to build a cabin at a place on Stewarding where there was a mining company that was coming in to build a tailings pond, make the lake into a tailings pond. So we built out there, and for the past 10 years, I now have 3 children, and my children have all been raised on the Inta. They've all been raised with Witsuwit'en on Stewarding. They've been raised in relationship to the land, in relationship to Indigenous law. And then in 2018, when Unist'ot'en received an injunction preventing them from protecting their territory, and at the risk of violence and criminalization from the police, Witsuwit'en chiefs, along with many other chiefs, had a meeting, and they decided that other clans and other houses were going to stand up in solidarity and protect the Inta. And ever since 2018, when Witsuwit'en Checkpoint was established, that's been a huge part of my life. And in 2019, I lifted the name Sleydo, partly because Timberwolf, the matriarch in Cassia, needed that support for her house and for the territory and for the Inta and the work that needed to be done out there. And so I'm very honored to do that work. Since 2018, we've seen multiple raids almost every year at Witsuwit'en and at Unist'ot'en and on the Inta. But we've always been building, and we've been building towards a future for the liberation of all of our people, not only Witsuwit'en, not only Witsuwit'en, but all Indigenous people, because we come from those places of hurt and pain, and we know that living out on the territories and living with the land in that way is critical to our survival, and it's critical to the survival of Mother Earth, of the environment, and it's critical to the survival of our children. And so I see every single day living out on the territories that power that my children have. When I first moved home, I didn't really know anything, and my children have such a deep connection to the land now. And that's all been possible through building and reoccupying territory, through building infrastructure on the territories. In 2018, when Witsuwit'en Checkpoint was established and the raid happened, they came in and tore down everything that we had built and took it to dumpsters. And what did we do? We rebuilt. And we came back stronger, and we came back harder. And they've continued to try to remove us from the territory. And at Witsuwit'en Checkpoint now, there's a cabin, a permanent cabin that belongs to Denise Was. There's tiny houses that have been established and built that are totally solar powered and self-sustaining, that are for our community members and for the Denise and Dzeke to come out and spend time on the Inta. We've just recently started about a year and a half ago, started building the first feast hall on the territory in generations, where we've only heard stories from elders of the feast halls that have been on the territory, and that's our governance. And so we've been able to establish a lot of infrastructure on the territories, and I want to share more about why that's important to me and why that's important to all of us. But I just wanted to share a little bit about the background of kind of how we got to where we're at with Ginamden Checkpoint. And I'd love to hear from Dr. Karla Tait too about the history of the Unist'ot'en, who have been inspirational to me and to so many others, not only in so-called Canada, but around the world, and that have been really a cornerstone to the reoccupation and the revitalization of our laws and upholding those in the world in this time in our history.
Sleydo. So I'm really honored to sit here and attempt to speak for my dear aunt, Karla Tait, Freda Huson. I've heard the story many times, so you'll have to forgive me if I get some of the timelines a little off. But my aunt has always been a force of resilience and just strength in our family. She really reminds me a lot of my late grandfather, Wickham, and she often credits him with the teaching of, stewarding our land through occupation. You cannot take care of your territories if you are not on your territories and monitoring what's happening there, harvesting from those lands, trapping on those lands. So roughly 12 to 13 years ago, my aunt decided to go out and check our Poplar Lake, our Tagados land territory, and when they were out trapping, they recognized, or I believe it was char fishing actually. That's one of our good spots for char fishing. And she had gone out and noticed there was a lot of industry presence. There was a mining company that had started exploration without consent. And she recognized right away the importance of protecting that precious territory. And so luckily, one of my maternal aunts, one of our chiefs, that dance partner and her son, and Wickham, Freda's then partner, had gone out, and they, with Freda, had told the company they needed to evacuate and vacate. Otherwise, Witsuwit'en law would be upheld, and all of that equipment would become the property of our chiefs. And so the company reluctantly left, and they continued to monitor that Yinta, and then realized that on our Tseweriel territory, rocks flowing, where the current Unist'ot'en camp stands, there was threat of incoming pipelines, Enbridge, PTP. And so they decided at that point it was really important to physically live on the land again. We have so precious little intact Yinta left as a house group and as a nation. She recognized, and our chiefs recognized, how important it would be to establish a community out there, a permanent residence where Freda could live and monitor the activities and continue to assert our sovereignty and turn back would-be surveyors who were trying to do the permitting exploratory work for the projects that none of our hereditary chiefs have consented to, and that holds to this day. So at this time, I was away at school, and I would come back and really be inspired by and have little snippets of opportunities to participate in, annual action camps that I think Molly was a big presence at, Sleydo, and it was just amazing to see all of the community from around the world, folks sharing skills on nonviolent reoccupation and protecting the environment, many different groups coming together. I think the biggest action camp we held hosted about 200 participants, and they were from all over the world. So it was really inspiring to see that community and the working together of members in our nation, and also outside allies and organizations, nonprofits that would come together and help us assert our sovereignty and protect our Yinta, protect the environment, and protect our future, essentially. So it was during one of these action camps that Freda was sharing how transformative it had been for her to walk away from her position with our band at the time. I think she was doing economic development and was, very successful at grant writing and overseeing programs within our nation. But she just found that she wasn't feeling fulfilled, that sense of happiness that she was promised from, succeeding and, having a home and all of the material things that come with this, sometimes I would say colonized life, just weren't what she was looking for in her heart. And she found that when she moved to the Yinta and left that life behind, it felt healing. She felt a certain wholeness in walking the lands that her ancestors walked. She actually said she had physical benefits from that move. Her eyesight that she needed glasses for previously corrected itself. Just overall mood was improved. Her physical health, she was much stronger. They were harvesting from the land and eating a lot of harvested foods primarily. And she was just speaking to all the benefits and how amazing that was with me. And I, at the time, was attending school. I think I was contemplating a master's or a PhD program in clinical psychology because I was working in the city and noticing our people were struggling, and we didn't have any of our own people in mental health to support them in that journey to healing. So when we talked, she and I spoke with my family about this vision of healing our people to heal our land, and helping to heal our people by making a safe space on our Yinta where we could revitalize those cultural and traditional practices that really define us as Witsuwit'en people. So we had the support of our chiefs, and that was the vision we've been working through and towards since those very early days. I kind of did the slow slogging through school to get the credentials, while Freda held down our territory, and she had so much help, I think, from our neighbors occupying their territory. There's a lot of kinship and mutual support that happens out there and has happened from the start. And I know that's been a huge force in supporting Freda in being out there as long as she has been. And our family, of course, supported her. About 3 years ago, I moved out there with my mom and my daughter, and started homeschooling my daughter on our Yinta. And it's been a really beautiful thing to see your child, and Molly spoke about this, your child come up with so much of a richer knowing of who they are than you ever experienced. I had largely grown up off reserve, and we went home for feasts. So I felt a strong connection to my family and my nation that way, but didn't really get to grow up immersed in our feast culture and the Witsuwit'en law and the teachings, and didn't really get to experience our Yinta and our harvest practices to the extent that community members had and Freda had growing up. She was out on the Yinta all the time with her dad, and I think that's why she was able to do all of the amazing, inspiring work she has done. And a lot of our leaders, we're so grounded in who we are and that connection and that love for our yinta and our way of life. And I think that holds us up at the most difficult moments. So, Freda really wants that for our people, and I want that for our people too. And so right now, we've had the benefit of like 13 years of building up infrastructure. We have quite a village. I think it's a bit shocking to folks that come out there for the first time. We have, I think, about 6 structures that are for housing, a healing center that has 12 beds, our bunkhouse that has another 11. We have an elder's cabin. Freda has a cabin. We have a groundskeeper cabin. So there's so many spaces that can hold people and keep them comfortable as they get reacquainted with their land. And then a number of other structures that just have helped us really build a permanent presence out there. This summer we installed a full solar array that takes care of all of our energy needs. So we're not dependent on fossil fuels. And that's been really amazing and feels like an important moment for us. A lot more, energy kind of sovereignty. That's alignment with our values. So, yeah, we're just very fortunate. This particular part of our territory where our village sits is right on Witsuwit'en, our beautiful, pristine water that's potable and feeds all of our salmon-bearing rivers downstream for our nation and neighboring nations. So we're so aware of the importance of that space and the importance of, sharing the opportunity to heal and know the land in that way that our ancestors did, right? Where they could drink fresh water from the land and they can harvest their food and they can feel that sense of autonomy and pride in who they are and can lean into the land and it will support them. So I think that's something that's missing in many of our members' experience living on reserve. And so that's our vision, is to help reconnect people firmly on their territory with who they are and help celebrate the land and what she does for us and then in turn recognize what we need to do for her.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel lucky that my workplace allows me to spend as much time on the land as possible. I feel fortunate that through my relationships, I am welcome to many different territories. And a lot of the people that are in the room today have had the opportunity and extended invitation to have spent some time on both of the territories recently. And in conversation, I had mentioned that every time I get to spend time, it feels like coming home to me. And I feel that is a connection that comes and is connected to the land. I feel that our language is so closely tied to the land. Our languages are so important, and I see the same revitalization that walks alongside hand in hand with reoccupation of land. And I noticed that a lot of our languages are very descriptive, which is so different from the English language. And I'm happy to always be able to and be open to learn new words and sentences, and oftentimes humor is connected to that. And I was wondering if you could, if there's something that you could share that maybe helped you find motivation when times get tough, that it keeps giving you strength in doing this important work.
Yeah, one of the reasons, one of the questions that I often ask about, living on the territory, and I used to describe it as like, I used to tell people, they'd say, what is it like to live out on the Inta? And I'd be like, oh, it's just beautiful. It's so peaceful. Like, we can do what we want. We can be who we are. Nobody's there telling us we can't, do this or that. We are learning constantly about our relationship with like the water, the animals, like everything that's alive in the world. I come out to go to the city or come to the towns, and I'm like, this actually isn't the real world. Like, it feels fake when people are just walking around, the cities and doing their thing. And I'm like, no, the real world is when you go out and get your own food. The real world is seeing the life and the death cycles of the natural world. And so I always, whenever I explain it to people, it feels like such a utopia. And I'm like, oh, it sounds like a utopia, but actually it is. And so when things get tough, I always ask myself, like, why did our ancestors live like this? Why did our ancestors live the way that they did on their territories? We could have had all of the technologies, we could have had all of the comforts and luxuries that we currently do, but we didn't. We had the knowledge. Our ancestors are extremely intelligent. I read this great book in university, 1491, that talked about all of the technologies that Indigenous peoples had, but we didn't choose to live like this. We didn't choose to live in a colonized world because of Unist'ot'en, because of Indigenous law, because of the way that we lived with our relations on the territories. We could have had all those things, but we knew that in order to have them, we would have to break our own laws. We would have to live in excess in a capitalistic world, what we're seeing right now within capitalism and colonization and globalization. And we knew that that was wrong. Our ancestors made a lot of mistakes over the thousands and thousands of years and then corrected them. And that's how we got our body of laws that all Indigenous people have. And we didn't do those things because we knew that it was wrong. And so when we come back to the land, when we start living with the land again, when we start reoccupying the territory, we feel what liberation feels like. We feel that we are in alignment with natural law, Indigenous law. And so I have been lucky enough to spend, for my work, to be able to spend hours and hours, thousands of hours learning about Indigenous law, learning about why we lived the way that we lived. And so to be able to uphold that in a way, to be able to know that that's what you have to protect. I mean, Shay was sharing a story earlier about, being at Coyote Camp and when the road was shut down for those 5 days, the feeling of what that was like. And in 2018, and then again in 2020, when those blockades were happening and there was no industry, there was nobody in our territories except for people that were invited by us, by the Unist'ot'en who put, the protocols in place. Anybody entering into their territory had to be an invited guest and had to go through a series of questions. And those were the only people on the territory. There was no industry, there was no police, there was no, DFO or any of these government bodies who are allegedly supposed to be taking care of the territory that have no idea how to do that because they don't know Indigenous law. To be in those spaces where the animals started coming back, as soon as, the only people that were there were the people that were there to protect them. Those feelings of liberation are what I want for all of our people. And I see the reoccupation of territory, the building of infrastructure on our territory so that we can survive and so that we can live. You know, we had all of that. That's what we need for liberation. The reserve system, you know, burning down Indigenous cabins on the territory, the removal of feast halls from the territory, the removal of our people, the removal of our children. All of those things were designed to keep us weak so that we could not stand up and protect the territories anymore, so that we could not be who we are. And so the reoccupation of territory and building that infrastructure so that we can be out there, so that we can do the healing work, so that we can teach our children the things that they need to know, so that they can be who they are without any interference. That's the goal. It's not just about this one pipeline. It never was just about this one pipeline. This is about being able to have what we need to grow our strength so that we can just be who we are, and we can have everything that we need to do that, because we need the water, we need the animals, we need the plants. Yinta means everything, all of it. It's not just land, it's not just the animals, it's not just the air. It's the living relationship of everything, including us. And so we're able to do that now. We're able to have those little pockets of liberation, and we're setting ourselves up for complete success in liberation of our people and our lands.
And as far as I'm concerned, there's still no DFO out there.
Oh, and on a side note, I pity the fool whoever tries to mess with our daughters when they get older.
I don't know how I can add much more to that apart from just acknowledging, like, when moments get hard, and you know, it is hard. Sometimes it's really hard out there. It's very isolating, thankless kind of work at times. So I think to the moment when I first started bringing my daughter out when she was like a little baby, you know, still those full chubby Witsuwit'en cheeks in all their glory. And, you know, we'd take her for hikes, and we were hiking through a part of our Yinta that had all these little depressions in the land. So it was the remnants of pit houses. I'm going to say it wrong. Yinbea? Sometimes I mix it up with Sanbea, which is not the one I want to say. One is like earth home and one is outhouse. So, and that's the nice way of saying it. So my daughter, she was noticing as I was packing her through this trail, and she just, you know, she's pretty quiet, observing everything. She was probably less than one, because she was still doing that baby babbling every now and again. But she was quiet on this walk, and when we got to those parts of the land where there were depressions and there was, like, you know, family homes, she would just start going. She was talking. She was babbling away to the ancestors there. And I think it's those kind of full circle moments, you know, where... And I'm a crier, so don't ask me why I got into therapy, because, you know, I really absorb all the emotion of the people I work with. But yeah, my daughter, she inspires me every day because, you know, I want for each of our children to have that, where they get to witness and see and feel their ancestors on their own Yinta. I think that's just so beautiful, and you know, she's had many of those moments. We did ceremony with her when she was really young. We had, you know, traditional law that helps guide us and make sure that our children stay grounded and they know where they're from and what land they belong to. And so we did ceremony with her when she was really young on our Dzeke territory. And I witnessed that as she's growing, constantly, you know, like there's this wisdom in her that she could only get from the ancestors, because it's wisdom that I don't hold. She'll share stories or teachings that I didn't tell her. So, you know, as Indigenous people, we have this rich reservoir of teachings that's embedded in our land, and I think it's so critical for all of our children to get access to that. And to like shift it to the work, the community work we do. You know, we run programming, we run healing programming, and all of the programming, I think, that brings youth onto the land is healing. Like, that's something that's, I think, immediately sometimes humbling, I think, with the 13 years I had to go to school, to come home and realize how much more powerful the land and the teachings and asserting our practices on the land is for someone's like mental health and wellness compared with, you know, probably hours of therapy. But we've had a youth camp where, you know, young Witsuwit'en come out and they learn art. They learn how to process salmon. They learn how to hunt and prepare their food. And to just see the light in their eyes as they recognize like how much power that they have that they didn't really, I think, realize they had before those moments. It's just such a beautiful thing to witness, and something that I want to constantly be a part of enabling and holding up. And I think that's why it's a sacred responsibility to steward our lands and to bring people to our lands and to, you know, monitor access. You know, that is a sacred relationship, and we need to protect that, and we all deserve that. So those are the things that I lean into when I'm looking for inspiration.
Thank you so much. And we need to see lots more of it. And I really hope that people that have the opportunity to listen to what you have to say, get inspired by this, get involved. As far as I'm concerned, I'm well aware of my relationship, and I will continue to be right behind you until the day I die. It's something to be very proud of, and as I mentioned earlier, arriving there feels like coming home, and that's thanks to you and thanks to the land. So.
I have a few more things to say. So one of the things that I just wanted to touch on is about, you know, some of the things that I was sharing about our liberation, about this whole movement of reoccupying land. And I feel really inspired because I was, you know, when I first started out, I was inspired by Unist'ot'en. I think, as I mentioned, everybody was, probably everybody in this room. And since then, I've seen so much, this exponential growth of reoccupation of territory. Gidimt'en has reoccupied territory, Laksamasu has reoccupied territory. It's just spreading like wildfire. You know, there's so many houses and so many whelps that are reoccupying their territory because they know that that's how you get strong, that's what makes us strong. When we're eating those foods, when we're ingesting, when it's really a part of us. Like in the Delgamuukw Stay Away court case, there's that quote that we are the land and the land is us. Well, that is true, and that's what made the Giksan Witsuwit'en so yeah, Gala's like, yeah. And that's, you know, going over all of those testimonies and reading all of that and witnessing that in real life on the territories, has been so empowering. And I think that so many people, everybody who tries it, it's just addicting, because after you reoccupy territory, after you live with your land, after you see the benefits of that and the power that it gives you, you can't go back. You can't go back to not having that, and you just want more, and you want more, and you want more, and you want more for everybody else. And I just want to share, you know, like, we've heard a lot about all the atrocities that have happened to us. You know, we saw the presentation about Kurg and about David Petraeus and about all of these things. And, you know, we've shared stories about the traumas and the horrific violence that we've experienced. And I was talking to Cedar about this the other day, you know, and I'm always like telling people all these horrible things. Like, they're like, what's happening on the internet? I'm like, oh, it's so awful. Like, oh, but you should come. You should definitely come. Because it's also so amazing. And I just want to say that we are winning. Like, we are winning. The amount of infrastructure, the amount of knowledge that is being gained. Yagala was sharing the other day how the elders in the Delgamuukwa court case sat around and they said, this person is the knowledge holder. This person has been out on this territory. They know this place. That's what we're creating out there. We're creating those roles for those people that are going to be the knowledge holders. They're the ones that are going to know the territories inside and out like the back of their hand. So when it comes time to fight for them, it's not going to be a question in their minds if they should or shouldn't, if the risks are worth it. They will know the risks that they have to take, just like we know the risks that we have to take. And we don't ever question it. It's not a choice, because you're living with the land and you have the capacity and the infrastructure to be able to do that. All of those things are so important to reoccupying and building so that we can run programs like Yin Ahli, like the protectors of the land that we have out there now, the youth going out on the territories and opening up our old trails and, you know, protecting our territories, monitoring everything that's going on so that they can run the healing camps to reconnect those people. That's what that's given us. And it is amazing. Like, even when I go out to Unist'ot'en, to the healing center, I'm like, it's like a big village. And that's what we want. That's what we have to do. So, you know, all of this has been a huge struggle. It's been very hard on us personally, on our health, on our spirits, on us mentally. But we are winning. The movement that has begun, the movement that has spread like wildfire to all Indigenous people, to all allies and supporters everywhere around the world, has been a huge success. So I want to thank a few people. There are so many people to thank, but I want to thank David Petraeus. Is that how you say it? I want to thank CSIS, who's no doubt watching right now what we're doing. I want to thank the people at KKR and at Coastal GasLink. I want to thank the KERG, because you are making us stronger. You are making us more strategic, and you are making us more successful. Awitsa. That's it.
Yeah, I think it makes all of us stronger, and it makes our relationship stronger, and it forms unity. This is not new to us as Giksan and Witsuwit'en. We know unity. Sometimes we just have to find our way back a little bit, but as so often, our future is in the past. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Asai.
Hấp Deni dễ chắc khai dễ chỉ yenen yede tik khai that was touching Dani abanikle, dani kak, chelke, blahni takaniya. No neko nautlen kai, kani kak, so kaka Witsuwit'en, chelke henley. Di yan ay kanitil. Ode defti, no kanak hailkot. No taats engine. Tsana Dzeke, neno ho delkat. Sleydo kwa neso delkat. Kwa tsana denis, neso delkat. He batesni. Otsana no hi atenen sen. Tsana wa, habeo kananis naltsak. Di yan bakas nissil. Sa bakat ateten Tsaka atsetta. Just teltsak. Talok atsalla. Tsewa. Talok natil. Tsewa hane natlas. Tsewa ta. Patatas insen. Ay. Del keo tani ka oya hettel. At nesu diesel holtas neudetlis no neko nautlen. Kanika ni no hoisiltsai bio. No tedesnil. Yen makaneuhti sabinuhtjetjen. Wanuhtjetjen. No jena ansen. No pe ansen. No tsai ni de jena kan settil. Ene no pe tla audin leo. Kai lek no hanislen dani kai halle no zohninin dil kai lek no zahan da kana no hanislen no tsahni de nasdil jasne kai jin kana blahne ole khan da sawe honest da si takane che si et tas nesli out deskil so di yan bakane destil kanis kakabalera destil habudi deksler out aywe no hi atenen san teniyo na badesli tilqe tani neretli lan anyway na badesli di yan ay qatnatit litiyo habudi deksler out ay bakashi honest Kirby, Jesse, Galen, takanitseo ni ata ni no be honest idea aten dakiyut. Kaya nedehtel. Sacho hanek no eresal. Zana wa yetseltek zana wa tiutsa hanek ayo kai hanek bi Tsana wa tihtsa ka ay be no sledextic. On behalf of Witsuwit'en, one of my brothers are not here. He recently moved on. Dzeke. His given name was Jeff Brown Sr. He was really active. And he was starting along with Sleydo before I came around. He was holding up my house, Cassia, before I took over. I just want to mention him because he was integral in guiding the young people as well. So for the past 3 days, I've been watching, I've been observing the young people from far and near, all sorts of cultures, all sorts of walks of life. Some of you are professionals, some of you are scholars. And even on social media, I checked it out. Quite impressive. All over the world. You know, the messaging, I always come up here, I always think about the messaging of what needs to go out. And the messaging is quite clear from the young people. that they are coming back onto the land. And it's without no reservation, pardon the pun, that they are. They are coming back. They are coming back strong. And I said in our language that Sleydo always consults with me, always asks me, what's going to, how can I do this? What can I do this? And it's without the guidance of me, and without me having my feedback, Sleydo walks away and does what she needs to do. And that's the way it is. The young people always ask for guidance, and it is our responsibility to be there and provide that guidance. You know, my father once told me, and my uncle reinforced that in me. He told me, with all the teachings now, all that you gained, your life experience, your teachings from us and your uncles, it's not yours. It's for the young people. It's for the future generations. It's for them. And if you ever try to walk away, and if you ever try to keep it within yourself, you're going to get sick yourself. And to this day, I hold that in high honor, because if I'm not available, if I'm not active, I can feel it. I can feel the restlessness. I can feel what's inside of me has to come out. And that's the knowledge, the experience. So for the past 3 days, I've been watching and I've been listening to the experiences and in the various areas of the globe, and all the help and all the support that has been shown rather. I'm quite pleased with that. You know, some of the elders that are sitting here, they would have had time to go somewhere else. There's some of our brothers and sisters are down in Vancouver in the elders gathering. You know, they would have been here. But their time is down there, and our time is here. We chose to be here. So the messaging, again, we're back. The young people are back. We're not going to go away. No matter where the people think that they're going to do something, there are laws out there called one particular law, it is strong. It is thousands and thousands of years of information that is ready to come out. The floodgate has opened. And again, I stress this to the scholars out there, the lawyers in particular, high-paying lawyers. You made a promise when you signed to be a lawyer. You made a promise to protect people's rights. You made a promise to protect the justice for everyone. You made that promise. Bring out that law. Interpret it for the young people. Interpret it for everyone, the industry. Interpret it. And then you'll find the rule of law. And for those that are out there, the biologists, the chemists, the physicists, you've made that study, you've made that commitment for your credentials. Make it happen. Your expertise is biology, your expertise is geology, your expertise is physics. Make it happen. Get all your scientific facts together. Just like Dr. Suzuki said, he put it really eloquently. I'm like him, I got no ties, I don't have anybody to kiss ass with. That's why I'm talking like this. I like what he said. So thank you for all the great speakers. And you're always welcome here in Gadamdan territory. And for those that are traveling home, safe travels to you. And for your families back at home, good thoughts for them. Good thoughts for your relatives. We're always here, we will always be here. And if you hear us from the news again, that means we're doing good. As simple as that. I would say thank you for everyone to be here. Thank you. So Kirby put me to work again to say the closing prayer. And I'll do it in our language because our language is, again, our ancestors speaking to us. Basically, we'll say that for those that are traveling, travel safe, be safe. And for those that you have relatives at home, for your relatives to have a good life, good way of life, good thoughts for them as well. And also for your water, for your where you're at, your environment, good thoughts to those areas, from one ancestor to the next, globally. Udakay, tani na kaya ni so cho bagondli. Ti yen ay kanat ti taiwi so cho abe bagondli. Ti abakana kaiwi so cho atasul set. It's a beokaanin. Kanis kak nasudizat ni anyway. It's tas sarelis wani din tani atni. Anyway, so cho ti tas kai tha chana naza ti ayis cheese ni ti yo so cho bagondli. You pay a bagondli ti yo. Nasudizat kak wa aretsis wani tani ka ensen. Waka so lawe destes ti hanek so chizu ni ay za hai detsis hostas neu detsis hunzu neu detsis ti yang kak ka bakatsu watai. All my relations, safe travels everyone.